Thanks, guys. I am here at the Brighton Music Hall with the excitable Dalton and the Sheriffs, who are playing tonight, and who, in fact, are playing through infinity, apparently, every Friday night at the Brighton Music Hall. And if you have not heard of them yet, you will be hearing about them soon. They are one of Boston's premier country bands. Can I say that? One of Boston's premier country bands?
We will accept it. I don't know if we can say it, but we definitely don't mind.
So tell me, how did you guys hook up with this gig? What a great gig.
We have been playing around the city of Boston for a couple of years now, and we have been lucky enough to forge some relationships with the radio station and the guys from Crossroads, and we got to do the after party the last few years for the country concerts at Fenway over at the House of Blues.
So after Jason Aldean and after Miranda and all those shows.
Exactly. This year we actually headlined the House of Blues after that show, and we had a really good turnout. And
of really drunk people who were probably really excited to see you.
This is our speciality, I would say, to a certain degree. They bring a certain energy to the experience for whatever reason, and people tend to have a good time. It's a really cool crowd that comes out.
And how did you all get together?
We've been playing together forever. This is actually my
brother. How long is forever?
Since we started playing music, so we all grew up together, Sean and Mike and I. Mike's my brother, and we played in a bunch of bands over the years.
So how long have you officially been Dalton and the Sheriffs?
Our first official group performance was around 2009, and I filled in for a band that they needed a singer on last minute.
So basically you edged somebody out, is what you're saying.
Sort of.
Drama, this is good.
Well,
this
no,
is how
it was
all
a
good
completely different band, and what happened was I can sing country because of my voice register. I've always been somewhere finding myself. My two favorite bands are Hootie and the Blowfish and Counting Crows from growing up. So kind of a natural storytelling with a deeper voice kind of thing. So we started playing more and more, just kind of in the acoustic setting, and all of a sudden there was a little call for it when it came to the music. So I would say the band itself probably got pretty serious around 2011.
And what are you policing? Why are you sheriffs?
It was one of those things, and we were trying to think of something. I've always been a fan of Hootie and the Blowfish and that kind of band name, the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers kind of thing.
Something.
So we had the Dalton kind of name. We had a kid that was originally in the band that would go around and call himself Dalton and from Roadhouse, and we just tried to put some things together that
I love that Patrick Swayze is now part of the lore.
Well, these are the things that the stories that have never been told before.
So you guys are ready to break up a bar fight at any moment, is what you're saying.
Basically, the nice thing about a Dalton show is there's generally happy people. They're not looking to cause problems for anybody.
So you all
Very
do
celebratory.
originals, but you do covers too. You do a mix.
Yep, we started out, I think most bands do, playing other people's music and doing it, I think, in a certain style. I don't think we try and recreate songs per se. I think we like to play it in our own fashion. Started throwing in some songs and people liked them, and over the course of a couple years, we released our first CD after the Jason Aldean show when we were playing at the House of Blues, and we basically toured on that for a year and started to go different places and travel to different states, and we released our first, I think, true single. We managed to crack the iTunes Top 200 with it, and it made it all the way to number 165, which was pretty sweet.
Yeah, for a local band with zero promotion and no sort of anything behind you, just DIY, that's really great. And that's exciting, right? It's like primarily a cover band when you make that breakthrough to that song where it's your song and everybody's singing along, not Keith Urban's song that everybody's singing along to. That must have been a nice feeling.
Yeah, it was a really big weekend for us. The weekend that we released it was also the weekend that we had gone down with a different song that we written to the Bluebird Cafe and passed our audition down there.
Seriously, in Nashville?
Sunday. We got a last-minute audition.
For those of you who don't know, the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville is the sort of most important place for emerging songwriters to go to play their music, for other songwriters, for people in the industry, for tastemakers in Nashville. It's a big deal for country music. If you watch the TV show Nashville, they're all about that place, and it is a really special place. So to even just get an audition, but then to pass the audition, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. We were playing our show on Saturday night, and we played on stage in Nantucket till 11. and we had to be in line at the Bluebird by 10:30 a.m. on Sunday in the middle of winter with no ferries running. And it was one of the longest trips I know that I've ever been involved in. But we made it down there. We passed our audition.
What song did you play?
We played a song called "Thanks for the Song."
Could have done without the ups and downs, and all your careless run around. Ain't much round here that I plan to take along. But go. Thanks for the song.
We had a bunch of people travel down to Nashville just to hang out. We got to play at Tootsie's, and it was just kind of like a really special weekend. And I don't know. I don't really care where we end up. It was really cool that it happened. It was really cool that for a brief moment we could see where we were compared to, we were the only indie band on the chart when it was happening. And
That's exciting. Well, speaking
cool.
of Tootsie's, which is on Broadway, you have a song that is my favorite song of yours that I've heard so far, that Just a Little East of Broadway.
Just a little east of Broadway, the dream of brighter lights.
The thing to me that I like about it, and I feel like is one of the things that gives you sort of authenticity as a country band, is that's a real story song. That's a real song about your family and about your grandfather and your parents and music being in your family. And I'm curious, all those people who handed down guitars and pianos and sang when you were a kid, were they country music fans? Is that how you got into that? Because you have a very rock and roll voice.
yeah, I think that it's a really good question. I think that from a lyrical standpoint, I've probably always been country. I think I grew up with standards. A lot of my family was in musicals and things like that. So the storytelling aspect of what I listened to was very much kind of on point with what happens in a modern country song these days. So I think, what we try and do when we sit down to play or when we sit to play, write a song is we just be ourselves. You know what I mean? We talk about the things we know. We don't try to be anything. I mean, at the end of the day, I got 3 kids. I have a life. This is what I do for fun at the end of the day, and we're not trying to be anything else other than that.
Do you all collaborate on the songs at all, or is it all you?
No, we my wife and Jeff and I sit down a lot of times. My wife's very good with the lyric aspect, and Jeff has great guitar riffs all the time, and then we bring it to the whole team. We all put it together, and one of the biggest things that we've been able to do is we play all the time. Like, you can find us almost any night in the city of Boston, and usually it doesn't cost a lot to get in. And
or in this case, if you want to come to the Brighton Music Hall, it's free.
That's correct. So, that's the way we've done things. We try and pick nights, and we build crowds over a period of time. And, I think that what's cool for me is just knowing that it's evolved into this bigger thing where we can make money off the shows and then self-publish.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I know, and you're publishing, which is super important.
Yeah.
And I would imagine in the time that you've been doing this, country has just exploded across the country. It's the #1 format in the States, and it's become such a big thing here. Country is basically the new rock and roll because so many people who were abandoned by rock and roll have now come over to country music. Think about the people that would be country now: John Mellencamp, Bob Seger, people that we just considered rock and roll before would be considered. The fact that Hootie can be country and still just be Hootie, basically, is pretty great. Have you found that you have gotten more fans over the past few years as people have gravitated toward country and the way it's become sort of more pop?
We all kind of listened to the 90s alternative Seattle sound, and as we matured, so did our music taste. If you go to my iPod, you'll find Pantera, Carly Simon, James Taylor, and Guster, and it's all over the place. It's all over the place. And we started playing country. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. And it's all I listen to now. It's awesome.
So what are you guys listening to now in terms of contemporary country?
I'm a fan of Jason Aldean because it's an easy transition because he is kind of rock.
Yeah.
So it's kind of both aspects of country and rock.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jason Aldean as well. A lot of Luke Bryan. I think there is that transition in modern country today where you're hearing a lot more guitar solos, a lot more mixing of the rock and country genre, which is a good fit for me.
I think people have just changed the label for what they want to choose to call stuff, and it's at the end of the day, it's all the same stuff. It's kind of rock chords with a story, and sometimes they throw in a mandolin or something, and now they want to call it country.
Those are the songs we wrote. I've always written. I haven't changed the way I write songs. I think that I remember distinctly when I first started playing out at, 18, 19 years old, being like, I felt like I'd missed my moment. I'd always wished that I'd grown up in like a James Taylor era or something like that, you know, that kind of stuff. And by the time I came around, it was kind of that new rock.
Right, the
and
aggro,
yeah, it was not, it didn't tell the kind of stories that I like to tell. So I feel like, you know, a song like You Ain't Her is something we wrote well before country came to where it is right now. Like if you were to put a Joe Nichols song on the radio 5 years ago, and then you put a Joe Nichols song on the radio right now, they're almost unrecognizable. You know, and the sets that we're playing from what we played before, we wrote You Ain't Her very early, and we feel like it's very similar to what you hear now. But, you know, our first recording of that happened well before I think that shift started. So it just, and you know, I look at, you know, my favorite bands, you know, and a band like Counting Crows, one of the things that they do really well is it's not quite jam band, but they have 11 guys everywhere they go. Right. And they've got all the instruments that we're getting used to. And I realize as I go back and kind of doing what you do, re-listening to the catalogs and expanding what your knowledge is, you're like, well, this really is not.
No, August and Everything After could be a country record now. Omaha, songs like that.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just interesting. It's a perception that's changed, not so much an instrumentation thing, but the storytelling thing is key. And I think for you guys, it's great that you've played so much because that's how you get successful. And you've played all over New England. And I saw on your schedule, you guys are heading to sunny Florida at a really good time to play at Toby Keith's I Love This Bar. That must be exciting.
Yeah, we've built a pretty good relationship with the guys at Toby Keith's. And they're just opening, so we're going down to play the new venue, and we've been out to Syracuse to play there, and you know that's the bulk of how we move around the country is based on opportunities to play there. They're unbelievable places. They've got built-in followings, and you know, great sound system, and so we feel pretty lucky to be able to do that. And
maybe Toby will hear you.
And you know,
she's got a record company. I'm just saying, Show Dog Universal.
We've started to have some interesting conversations. There's no doubt. Things that I think when we started this band, we did not expect to come anywhere close to. And the nice thing that I like, and the thing that, you know, we had a band meeting as, you know, just getting into we're heading into next year in the summer, and we are lucky that we get to play through the winter, but it's a summer thing, and it gets bigger and bigger every summer. And I know that the only way that we're going to do anything is if it comes from us four and nothing else. The minute that we try to be anything other than Boston's country band, we've lost.
And do you feel like you have compadres in the scene? I mean, you certainly are by no means the only country act in Boston. Do you feel like there's a camaraderie in between the people who play country because it is getting so much more popular?
We're definitely starting to meet some of those guys that do those things, and I think that it was not a natural, the way that the scene was built was out of necessity. So some people were looking for it, so people would transition what they were doing. Ours was, I think, a little more intentional because we started doing it a little bit earlier before the demand was there. I think is also why kind of our market share is where it's at, is because we've been doing it a little bit longer. We're starting to meet guys that do it, and you know, it's that delineation between, are you doing it to have the show, or are you doing it because this is the kind of music that you like to make? And we're definitely starting to meet some of those guys, and I think that's kind of a cool thing that's will crop up once we get to that saturation point here in Boston.
And it's absolutely coming. So it's Dalton and the Sheriffs. Check them out on Facebook. Check them out on Twitter. Check them out here at the Brighton Music Hall every Friday night, pretty much for the next few months, right?
Correct.
So if you got a free Friday night, this is the place to be. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and have a great show tonight.
Thank you so much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.